Yesterday I was wearing this hairpiece and I realized it was too small and it made my face really pop out because I'm fucking overweight at the moment. It's been years. Always on the brink of being somebody who can just wear a t-shirt without having to worry about the bulges, without having to suck in all the time, without having to undo my fucking belt while I'm driving because I'm sitting down for so long, and the squishy of the belly sticking out over the top of the pants. It's really a pain in the ass to be fat, but I love food. I've been eating so much food lately. When there's nothing else to do, eating is a really good thing. My biggest concerns usually are, when can I get more food? Can I be bothered getting off my fat ass and getting food from the store? Do I have enough money for food? More food. I've pretty much always got some food. What I should be concerned about is exercising. But I just woke up, it's about 8 p.m, 9 p.m. now, and it's cold outside, which is great for hair, by the way. It sticks on. This is a brand new piece. It was pre-cut along with all the others. And this is all I got left. Don't mind that sign. They use clothing dye. Clothing dye means that you can't, so Hair Direct use clothing dye. When companies use clothing dye, you cannot bleach the knots or the front roots in the case of poly. This is the last one I've got from the last 3 full hair pieces that I cut to pieces. And that's one of the ones that have a little coat on it, which you may not be able to see through the hair piece when I wear it. The rest of them are all just old lace pieces. I mean, they're new. I mean, they cut them out and I bleached the bases. That looks like Swiss lace. See, I can see all the way through that. This rougher looking one is probably maybe Swiss lace as well. It's hard for me to tell what's Swiss lace and what's French lace. But I know that Swiss lace has a maximum density of medium light, whereas all the medium density ones, probably that one, is probably French lace. But I think there was a batch that had really unbleached knots and I didn't do anything about it. Well, I tried to and it didn't work. So that's all I got left there. And so this, I could put those on if I completely ran out of hair pieces. Completely ran out. So I've got this container of all the hair pieces that I've kept over the years that I felt could be cleaned and replied. Most of them are lace though. And I probably won't really need to use any of those because I'll keep buying. More new hair pieces like these ones. So this is 6 hair pieces I got from Lord Hair for about $560 using the coupon code StickOnHair. They're all poly, 0.03 millimeter thin skin. S22 hair color 4, which is medium dark brown. So I have been considering the idea of brushing this hair, shaving more of this out, because there is a balling sort of zone in here. I don't know if it's increased over the years, but it's definitely visible sometimes when you shine a light and camera from above. And if you can see where my hair is cut, the way I do that, I cut to about there. So from that point onwards, that would be the extra amount of length I would need on my hair pieces. the looking at the length of one of these hairpieces, and the size of my current stencil, I can get 1, 2, 3. That makes each one of these things, which is $560 divided by 6, which is about $90 or something, right? That makes each one of them $30 each, I guess. So if I get 3 weeks out of one hairpiece, that's $10 a week. But if I want to start shaving back further, that extra bit, then my stencil's gonna have to be that much longer, and then I'll get 2 out of each hairpiece. That'll increase the price for me. Also, I'm not sure how good my mirror setup can be that I can see properly when I'm placing it all the way back there. And it'll be almost like doing it from scratch again. Like admitting to myself that I'm balding all the way back to here and then putting a massive hairpiece all the way there. Also, I'm not sure, I can't monitor how people will perceive that back bit. Do I need to do a brush over bit from there? Will the glue and everything be visible with any gappage there? Because I don't know if I can get it that accurate back at this spot here. For this reason, I'm reluctant to begin cutting into these hair pieces, but since I've only got one poly hair piece left with the numbers stuck to it, like you'll never get off, I'm gonna have to make a move and start cutting these things out. And for that reason, being unprepared as I am, and unwilling as I am to start shaving my head all the way back to here yet, I'm just going to keep cutting them to the stencils that I've got. And today, the thing is, this bottle of bleach, which I need to, oh yeah, I shaved a square out of my chest. Shut up. Anyway, so this would do all 18. Yeah, no, sorry. 3 times 3 was 9 times 2. Yeah, 18. This would do all 18 hair pieces if I cut them all out. Cutting them out will take 2 hours. And then bleaching them is not that hard. But cutting them out and is the pain in the ass thing to do. Okay. I just had a shower, so just so that I can go around this world without having to deal with hair flopping around all over the place. I'll just give myself a quick haircut, and it won't be as short as this one because it was really too short. I didn't like having no fringe at all. So you see as I brush forward how much visibility there is back in here. Now if I started shaving all the way back to there with a bigger stencil, with a bigger hairpiece, couldn't that just happen again anyway? Because there's going to be a problem where the hair meets the natural, where the plastic of the hairpiece meets the natural hairs. There's going to be some sort of gappage in there every time, right? It's hard to get it so that there's no gap at all. So therefore it could be a waste of time and more problems than it's worth to try to deal with that. For all of these reasons, I'm just going to stick with what I got. You might be wondering, how did I know exactly how long I needed to snip that at? It's arbitrary. I just made it up just then. Because I can always go back and cut off more later, but that's about 1.5 inches that I left it. And I feel if I went any shorter, usually I try to match the length of the hair on my natural head and start at that length and then go out forward, but I think it's all cut a bit short at the moment. And my hair will grow back naturally, but this won't, so I'm gonna make allowances for that. Ideally, I want it to be long enough that I can brush it back without it falling off easily. But I think I'm gonna have to cut it too short to make it match the rest of my hair under most circumstances. Because most of the time I will not be brushing it back. We'll see how that goes, but that, I definitely feel like that gives me more to play with than that. I might have to cut off some of those. I'll deal with that later. So now I guess I'm gonna have to just put some clothes on, get to work stenciling, tracing, cutting those out, then bleaching them. I just don't want to do all 18 though. Maybe I'll do 9. Because each hairpiece is about 3 weeks. That hairpiece that I swapped off was, I think, 4 or 5 weeks old. I probably should just chuck it out, that one. Because it was starting to lose around here and I'd had to trim it around. I've got enough emergency pieces to not worry about that. So I've spent the past hour cutting these out. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of 2 hair pieces, 2 full ones. And this is the last one. I thought I'd just tell you some of the things I was noticing as I was tracing the stencils on this material and also the cutting out. So these things here are on every hairpiece, and they are the scourge of the hairpieces when you're cutting them out. You really don't want them on the hairpiece. If that was near the front, as you can see through along the front there, if that was near the front there, everyone would see it. I've tried to make sure that the front hairline part of the stencil was on the opposite side, so that this will appear back here and hopefully be concealed most of the time when nobody will ever notice, hopefully. With the directions of the way the hair has been stitched in, it would be great if all the hair was stitched in one direction, so that you could always end up with a hairpiece like this one, where the hair is all facing in one direction. That's going to be a lot easier to brush later on. But when you start cutting out the middle parts here, the Chinese ladies who stitched these, or V-looped these hairs in to poly, they started going in different directions. This one, despite the fact that it's still got that on it, it's annoying, are all basically going in one direction, which is really good for brushing and styling your hair later on. This one's starting to get a little bit painful, where the hairs are starting to come out, like not all in one direction. This one's good, all in one direction. This one's got these ones coming out in all directions. So this is one that would have contained probably the center of the scalp there. And it's hard to probably see here, but the stitching goes mostly in that way, but then sometimes it goes that way, which is a pain. And this one as well. So these are the less likely to be easy to style, these ones. When cutting these things out, you need 3 hands, okay? You need one hand to hold it, one hand to cut it, and a third hand to pull it tight in the bits where you're coming in. So you'd cut in from about there. You don't want to have nothing to grip onto, so you cut this bit out first along the front rim so that you've got all this to hold onto while you're doing it. It gets very hard to grip onto anything, and also going the wrong way around. It's easier for me to cut around that way than around that way, obviously, because I'm right-handed. With left-handed people, I suppose it's the opposite way around. So that third hand I was talking about is obviously your foot, your big toe and your second big toe. I just used to basically clench it into position. Without using your foot, I don't know how this is possible. So after you have cut all your hair pieces out, I have 9 here. I left the other 3 hair pieces just in case I want to make my hairline larger in the future. You open this box up, mix that and shake this up vigorously. These things have all been brushed back from the front hairline, so that's all the front hairline facing me. So I wet them, shook them into the shower, and now I'm going to put this all along the front hairline. Okay. So all of these poly pieces now have messy. That was the first one I did. I think I thought I had more of this cream stuff than I actually do. So hopefully I haven't made the whole front of these things turn blonde. That big streak there. So the time is now 20 to 1 a.m. So about 1:30 I'll come back and have a look. Hopefully they don't go completely blonde at the front, and it means I've got to throw them all away. I just want the front roots to be bleached so that they don't stand out like dark doll's hair. against my scalp. That is the product, in case people keep asking me which one I used. I don't know that it matters. This won't bleach at all unless Lord Hair has used hair dye. If they use clothing dye, then this will not work and I will have to throw them all away. Okay, so it's been an hour since the last one was set up. So I'm just going to take one of them, this one, and rinse it under the tap in the sink here. I'm also playing Risk, which is a time-sensitive game. You can't pause it if they're real players. So that's one of the things that I concern yourself with this chore that you have to do every 3 to 6 months. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit carried away with the game. I'm doing well, I'm green. Yeah, it's the guy I killed. So, yeah, all of them. I noticed that it was quite blonde, as you can see here. It could be too blonde, it could be a problem. We'll see when they dry. I might have bleached it too long, but I'm very, very confident now. As you can see between the blonde there and the darker brown here, that there's absolutely no problem with the Lord Hair using hair dye instead of clothing dye. If they'd used clothing dye, then you couldn't do this. Smashing this guy, but in the meantime I've decided to cut the lid off this conditioner and schmoof it all in through here. You can clearly see that the front is completely bleached blonde. Every single one of these hair pieces has now had its front roots bleached. I just want to show you underneath that it's still a bit white from either the bleach or simply from being exposed to water for so long. So if you don't really want your front hairs to be bleached, and I think in my case it wouldn't probably matter, then you should aim more carefully than I did when applying the bleach to these front roots. I think in this example we can clearly see what it looks like to not have them bleached on this end, which means that your hair looks kind of rubbish. But then down the front here, it will be undetectable to everybody. So it would be good if the factory did this. It would be really good if the factory made sure that all their poly hair pieces had bleached front roots. And I kind of failed here, but I think that's a bit to do with not having chopped that nicely when I was cutting it out, so I might have to do some modifications on that. And these ones here are a bit rubbish as well. But we'll see when it's on your head. The end result, of course, is when it gets mixed up with glue. That's not good that those ones are side on. That must have been a middle cut. See how they're all running in that direction? But at least, as you can see, it won't be as noticeable here when it's stuck to the skin with glue and everything as it is back here, where it's really dark. But you see how these ones here have been stitched in a different direction to these other ones? The sideways stitching finishes there, and then the back stitching continues that direction. So that's a major problem. I just wish they sold hairpiece as material that you could just put in. So I bleach all my hair pieces at the front roots, and as you can see, it's a lot less noticeable, even though you would notice that now that I've pointed it out to you, than it would have been if they weren't bleached at all. They look like roadkill, obviously, and I would be more concerned about that blonde at the front, except for the fact that I don't think it really matters on my hairline. If it is more blonde at the front, I think I probably just go with it rather than throw these away. But like I say, you should aim more carefully than I did. I was a bit worried because one of my commenters said that he was unable to bleach his hairpiece at all, and I thought that doesn't make sense because he got his hair from lordhair.com, whereas where I get them all from, and I thought, have they started using clothing dye? And my policy is, not just my policy, my common sense tells me just from past experiences, if you've got lace, you need to bleach the roots, the knots. And if you've got poly, you need to bleach the front roots along there. So if you can't bleach, then the hairpiece is useless. And no hair company bleaches the roots properly, or the bleaches roots at all, and with poly, and they never bleach the knots nicely with lace. So it has to be hair dye. Don't ever buy a hairpiece from a company that uses clothing dye. You could say hair dye is more expensive, but no, that's what they started with. To move to clothing dye is to cut costs to maximize profits, and it's not a usable dye type for this industry. Using clothing dye prohibits you from using bleach. The only reason you'd ever allow clothing dye is because they are guaranteeing, which no company does, the bleached roots or the bleached knots on lace. But no company in the world does that. In fact, I don't know any company at all that even bleaches the roots of poly V-loops, which is why I had to invent this method myself. Clearly, you might not want to have blonde at the front of your hair, so be careful when you're applying the bleach. And this is a very long exposure time. This is an hour. So maybe you want to just do half an hour or something and try that out first, because it will definitely have been lighter if I just left it for half an hour.